Hi, everyone. This is Gail Queen. I recorded this earlier and I somehow messed up the upload. I don't know what happened to it, so I'm doing it again. I meant to get this out to you earlier. It's been a really busy day for me. I do hope this helps. This is on topic 5, discussion question 2, and I'm hoping I can clear some things up. So if you open up the Excel sheet, you're going to first put in your name, and that's going to generate some data for us. So I'm going to use the name solutions. Okay, so you put your name in there instead. And what this is a data set. We have 102 wells, and for each well, they went out and did some kind of test on the water quality, and they got a score of some sort. So each one of the wells has a score. And I'm not sure if the scores are good if they're high or bad if they're high, but whatever it is, there's data. So we have 102 data entries here. So if you look at column B, this is where we have the data entries, and it goes all the way down, all the way until we have row 103. So from B2 to B103, that's where our data is sitting. So we're going to use this to do a little bit of work. Now, in the first little table here, what they want us to do is think about that data and say, from that data set, what is the smallest entry in that column of data? So in order to do that, we're going to do equals minimum, and then you use parentheses, and then we have to say the minimum of what? So you put in your data set. So we type in B2 colon B103. Close the parentheses. Now, what they told us to do in the directions was not only find the minimum, but they want to make sure that we really capture all of the data in that data set. So whatever the minimum is, they want us to subtract 0.1, and whatever the maximum is, they want us to add 0.1, and that way we're sure to capture all of our data. So we're going to do minus 0.1, so that will be the minimum value, 16.8. The maximum will be similar. Sorry, I've got a little bit of laryngitis here. Max, and we put our data set again, B2 through B103, close the parentheses, and this time we're going to add 0.1. Okay, so we go, our data set, if you were to take all the data in column B and sort it out and put it in order, the lowest number would be negative 16.8, and the highest number would be 50.2. So think about your number line, like on the x-axis. So negative 16.8 would be back here, all the way to positive 50.2. We have this section of number line, okay, that we're working with. That's where all of our data is. We want to take that section of number line and divide it up into equal parts. And we want to have 11 equal parts. So the 11 equal parts, I mean, if we divide it into 11 equal sections, we need to know how wide is each section. Well, first of all, each part that we divide up into is called a bin. And so we want to know the bin width. So if I take the whole distance between negative 16.8 and 50.2, and I divide by 11, that's going to give me the width of each bin. So how do I do that? I'm just going to do equals. We're going to take the maximum number, 50.2, minus the minimum number, negative 16.8. And we do need to, actually I need to go back and put parentheses around that. So we want to do that difference. So that's the length between those two numbers on the number line. And we want to divide that length by 11. So divided by 11. So each bin is going to be 6.1 long, right? Now, in the table below, all they're wanting you to do on the table below is they have 11 rows. So they're saying for each bin that you have, tell me what the endpoints of the bin are going to be. So for example, the first bin, if I start down here at the lowest number on our data, negative 16.8, the first bin is going to start at negative 16.8, and I'm going to go on the number line 6.1 this way, and that's the upper limit for that first bin. Does that make sense? So we have the endpoints of bin number 1. And so here we're just going to enter that. For the endpoint, the low endpoint of bin number 1, we're going to start with the minimum value. So we do equals the minimum value. Enter. Okay. Now, let's go down and then we'll do the next column. So the lower limit of the next bin, okay, so if I start bin number 1 at negative 6.8 and I add 6.1, that's where the second bin is going to start. So all we have to do is, in the next cell down, is do equals the previous starting point, which was, negative 16.8. So equal the cell above plus the width of the bin. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on the width of the bin and hit enter. So I've just added 6.1. So that gives me the next starting point. Now there's one other thing we need to do to that formula to make sure that I can copy and paste it. And that is I need to lock in this bin width 6.1. So down here on that calculation I just made, I'm going to come up and I'm going to put a $sign on the E and I'm going to put a $sign on the 7, and that's going to lock in the bin width. So now I can copy. I'm going to go to that second starting point that I have, and I'm going to click on copy, and I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to click on paste. Now you can drag down and it'll auto-fill it if you want to do that, but I just think copy and paste is really clear. So if you look at this, this is the starting endpoint for each one of the bins. We start at negative 16.8, the next one starts at negative 10.7, the next one starts at negative 4.6, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay? Now, the upper limit for each bin, so let's go back to the number line. I start at negative 16.8, I'm going to end 6.1 later. So we're literally saying the starting and ending point of bin number 1. So this is a little bit of duplication, but it's okay. On this upper limit, we're going to say, I'm going to say equals the lower starting limit plus $sign E, $sign 7, the bin again. So notice this does make perfect sense. On these first two columns right here, okay, I've got bin number 1. It starts at negative 16.8, it ends at 10.7. I'm sorry, negative 10.7, right? Well, where does the next bin start? The next bin starts at negative 10.7 and goes this way. So look at the starting point in your cell here for the next bin. The next starting point is 10.7. These two numbers should be the same. It's where the first one ends and where the second one begins. I hope that makes sense. So we can, again, copy this formula all the way down for the upper limit for each bin. So we're going to do copy, highlight all of those, hit paste, and that's going to give us our upper limit. So now you can see the starting and ending point of bin 1, go down one row, starting and ending point of bin 2, starting and ending point of bin 3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the bottom row has the starting and ending point of bin number 11. All right, so that's what you've got. Now, so each bin has a starting and ending point. They want us to name that bin by using the midpoint of that bin. So we are going to, for each one of these, go to the top row here. I want to have the midpoint of bin number 1. So all you have to do to find the midpoint is do the average. We're going to take the average of the lower limit for bin 1. So click on that, comma, the upper limit for bin 1. So you do the average of D11 and E11. Just put a comma between them. And that's going to be negative 13.8. Now think about what we're saying. Here's bin number 1. It starts back here at negative 16.8. It ends at negative 10.7. Look at our midpoint. The midpoint is negative 13.8. That's right in the middle of the two endpoints. Do you get it? All right. Copy and paste that down. It's going to be the same for all of the other bins. So we copy, highlight, paste. All right, so that's what we're going to use for the title of our bins when we go to do our chart. Now, the frequency, I know in the video before, the other guy's video, he said you can use frequency or you can use COUNTIF. The COUNTIF was quite confusing. I don't see any reason to do that. Let's keep it simple, right? The KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. If there's an easy way to do it the easy way, okay? So we're going to use the frequency to calculate the frequency, and we're not even going to worry about that other possible method of using COUNTIF. The frequency function in Excel requires 2 entries, okay? So we're going to use the frequency function. The first thing I have to tell the frequency function is, what is the data that I'm using? So we're going to have to use B2 through B103, that whole column of data. So that's the first thing we have to tell the function is use this data. And then we have to say, well, which bin are we talking about? We're trying to find the number of entries within each bin. So to tell it the bins, we don't have to use both the lower and upper limit. We're only going to use the upper limit, but we don't want to use the last upper limit. Please pay attention, okay? Don't use the very last bottom upper limit. Let me show you what it's going to look like when we type it in. So on this top row here, click on the frequency for the top row, do equals frequency, comma. All right, the first thing we got to put in is the data. So the first thing I want you to do is B2 colon B103. Now put a comma. Now I have to tell it which bin I want them to consider. We use the upper limits, okay? So watch what I'm going to do. Upper limits, highlight. We're going to highlight this whole column except for the last entry. We don't use the last entry. Put a closing parenthesis and hit enter. There you got it. Okay. All right. So the relative frequency is very simple. All we're going to do for the relative frequency is we're going to take the frequency number and we're going to divide it by the entire number of wells that we have. So here we'll do equals, go click on the frequency cell and they're divided by how many wells are we working with here? 102. All right. So we have this relative frequency, copy, paste it down, and there's your data. That's all the stuff that you need to do your chart. Now we are going to build a histogram using the relative frequency. So the first thing that you need to do for the histogram, and a histogram basically looks like a bar chart, except that the bars are not separated by space. They're all, blended together to try to, show you how the data is behaving. But we start to get a histogram by doing a bar chart. So we have to do a bar chart based on this relative frequency. So I want you to go back to the relative frequency column and highlight the entire column and then do insert up here at the top and then click on the bar chart. We're going to do a two-dimensional bar chart. Okay, so there's our chart. I'm going to go ahead and drag this chart down because I want the chart to be down here. Try to drag it without hurting myself here. Okay, so, all right, there we go. And let me just resize it a little bit here. Okay, so here is our chart. Now we got to do a couple of things to it to fix it. First of all, notice that for each one of our bins, they've numbered the bins in the chart, bin number 1, bin number 2, bin number 3, etc. They don't want us to use 1, 2, 3 for the name of the bin. They want us to use the midpoint. That's why we calculated that midpoint column. So here's how we're going to put this in. Make sure you have the chart highlighted. And as the chart is highlighted, you should be able to go up here on the top and you're going to click on this select data. So click that. Then you're going to come down and click on the right box on your screen. You're going to click edit and you're going to tell it what you want to use for the names of the bins. Well, we're going to go back up here to our data and we're going to click on the title of bin. The title of bin column was those midpoints. So click and highlight that column, right? That puts it in there. Click OK, and then click OK again. Now let's go back down to our chart. Now look at the name of my bin number 1. It's negative 13.8. That was the midpoint. The second midpoint was negative 7.7, et cetera, and it goes across like that. All right, so that's the first thing you need to do. Second, you need to, we got to get that chart changed from a bar chart to a histogram. The way you're going to do that is make sure that the chart is clicked on here. You can tell by the little highlighting. Put your mouse over one of the blue bars. It doesn't matter which one. Don't click on it. Just put your mouse over it and then right click on it. Now, that's going to bring up this menu. Click on Format Data Set. And then over to the right, you're going to see a column open up for formatting your data set. Now, if this particular screen isn't open, make sure you click on the little bars up here, this little icon, and it should open this screen exactly. There is something called gap width. This is the gap between the bars in my bar chart. I don't want gaps between them, so I'm going to drag that gap width down to 0. And now look at your chart. All of the bars are collected together now. So that is called a histogram. All right, so we've done that. The last thing that we need to do is just change the title of our chart. So go up and click on the title of your chart, and you can highlight it and then retype. You can type and name it whatever you want to name it, whatever makes sense to you. I just put well water quality, and you can kind of see the different the different bins there and what the frequency is on each one. Okay, so let me close out this little formatting menu over here. So that's it. Okay, that's what you need to do for topic 5, discussion question 2. I hope that not only can you do it, but I hope that you kind of understand what you're doing now. Anyway, I'm going to post this. I hope it helps. Y'all have a great night. I will talk to you soon. Bye.